Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Day 2 of our tree maintenance, tree replacement Memorial Day project. Had some good progress yesterday. Final count, I think we did 14 Norway spruce replacements on the main tree line up there. And so we're going to do the same thing today, just on the south side of the creek. And I'm kind of over in the first area we're going to be working in. And we're going to replace essentially 4 Norway spruce on this area, and then we're going to go over to the west and we're going to hit another area where there's at least 10 that we're probably going to put in, maybe more. So today's going to be kind of a mix of Norway spruce and white pine. So we'll kind of see as we get over there what we want to do and where we might alternate them, or we might kind of just throw some in randomly. We're trying to fill in some spots along this creek area that were damaged from the derecho back in 2020. So August of 2020, for those of you that aren't familiar, hopefully you're not familiar, August of 2020 we had a really horrible storm that came through. Most of us knew straight line winds growing up. Like most people, I'd never heard of a derecho until we experienced one here. And essentially a derecho is a land hurricane, and so we had sustained 107 mile-an-hour winds for 40 plus minutes. So it was pretty crazy. We lost a lot of trees, a lot of trees along the creek area, a lot of trees along the perimeter of the property. I would say we lost maybe roughly about 1/6 of the trees on our property. So it was pretty devastating when that happened. There were a lot of trees down, and even after the initial event, it's not like, oh, you spend a few weeks and months kind of cleaning up the perimeters, getting, you know, some of the aesthetic stuff cut up and out of the way, but then each successive year, when you have more severe weather, some of the trees that were initially damaged during that event in 2020 then fall 2 years later, a year later, whatever, right? So you're kind of constantly dealing with damaged trees, and I'm going to do a whole video on kind of that event and some of the areas that were impacted, because it's crazy, especially on the north side. We had trees that were just absolutely massive, just uprooted and flipped over like toothpicks. And so I'll turn this around, give you an idea what I'm talking about here. So see the big gap there? There's a number of places along the property. There's some gaps over there. This is much easier to see in the winter time when there's not leaves on the tree, obviously, but huge amounts of damage and trees down just everywhere. And so in this particular area, some broken branches and trees there that you see at the top. In this area, we've taken and we've put just 5 Norway spruces, and that's what we're going to do on this line here, just to try to fill in this, get some cover. And then where you see the tree tubes back here, we've just been sticking in hackberries and red oaks, and this middle one here, kind of hard to see, I'll get a better angle. This middle one that's already above the tree tube is a tulip tree. So anytime we're doing a project and we have a hardwood that is left over or extra that we know we can put to good use, we've been kind of sticking them down here by the creek area to try to fill in some of the damage that was done from the derecho. So yeah, it's a work in progress. It's we've constantly been trying to assess and look at places that would make the most sense to put trees in to try to replace some of the damage from that storm. Actually had the state forester come out a few months after that happened, maybe 6 months after that happened, just to get a recommendation on what we should do with some of the tree damage. And good news is, he said, is, you know, clean up the perimeters, clean up the aesthetic areas that, you know, you don't want, you know, people seeing all the time. But then he said that a lot of the trees that were damaged were non-native opportunistic trees, and so the deadfall is good habitat for small game, for birds, etc. So he recommended just leaving that, which was, you know, music to my ears, because you could spend like 20 years trying to clean up all those trees, cutting them up, getting them out of there. So that's what we did. We cleaned up the perimeters, and we just left the deadfall in the middle. He said a lot of those trees will come back over time, which is great. And so we've just been trying to be intentional about putting native trees back up to fill in some of the dead areas. So anyway, there's a little sneak peek of maybe the future derecho excuse me, video we'll be doing. Get a better sense of what happened during that event and all the damage it caused. But yeah, for today, day 2, another day of replacing Norway spruces and also putting down some white pines in some of those areas as well. So I don't know, we're going to target maybe 20, 25 trees today. If we'll see how the day goes. We'll see how much we get done. It's a beautiful day. It's overcast. It's about 60 degrees, so it's perfect conditions. The ground is a little bit harder than yesterday. So yesterday I mentioned it was pretty easy to use the spade to kind of dig down and get out what we needed to replant some of the trees. But today I'm going to break out the earthquake, make it a little bit easier on the joints, and make it more seamless, drill those holes quicker, and yeah, we'll go from there. So stay tuned. I'll do a few time-lapse videos and then we'll circle up at the end. Okay, we're over on the second area that we're going to be working in today, and I'm going to flip the camera around here to show you a couple of things. The first thing is obviously going to be where we're going to be planting our trees today, but you also get a much better perspective of what I was talking about in the introduction for today with some of the tree damage. So I'll zoom in on some of that, but this kind of gives you a better perspective of some of the things that I was referencing in terms of the damage from the derecho. And so again, this area over here is another attempt to sort of fill in some native trees from where those non-native trees were damaged in the derecho. So I'm going to flip this around real quick and just kind of give you a wider perspective here of what we're looking at. But you see all these gaps here in the tree line. You see a lot of deadfall over here. So I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, and then you can kind of see just lots of dead trees, lots of branches missing, openings, etc. And so what we've done here is I mowed this down yesterday so it's easier to work in. Again, kind of one of the tricks of the trade, you want to get the grass down, like I mentioned when we did our big project earlier. Want to get the grass down as low as possible, but you can kind of see this guy's hanging on a little bit, but we'll probably replace him. This was sort of an experiment. We had some leftover trees last year, some Norway spruces, and we didn't really have the time or energy to make all the cages and get the cages on them. So we're like, well, let's plant them and let's just do an experiment and see if maybe the deer leave them alone on this side of the property, and that was obviously wishful thinking, which is why from now until the day we're done doing this, it's, if you're going to put in any sort of spruce or pine, for us at least, it's got to be caged and protected, because what you have is just, you know, the deer might leave it alone for months, which they did. These ones were in great shape for a long time, and then it came time to shed antlers, and a few bucks got over here and just went to town on these little trees, and they were bigger than this, obviously. At one point, there's a pheasant talking to us, wants to be on camera. Anyway, so we've got that happening here. There's about 10 of them in this area that we mowed down, 10 or 11. And then, as I mentioned earlier, just like on the other side, we've got a bunch of tree tubes in kind of random areas. Not random, but somewhat strategically placed and measured, but sort of random. And those are just red oaks, hackberries, silver maples, things that we have left over when we're doing a project. Again, anytime we have a leftover hardwood, we bring it down by the creek area and we get it put in a good place, give it some space to grow. So hopefully one day this will start filling in a little bit, and it just kind of goes on. There's a few more, hard to see, a few more stakes down there, one on the right side and one way back in the distance on the left. Those are also pine trees, spruces I should say. So yeah, that's what we're working with today. It's going to be one of our main areas, and these are all kind of replacement trees, unfortunately. You know, it's kind of the nature of the game. You're going to have a lot of trees you're going to have to replace over time, and 15 to 20% is roughly the number. If you do this like we did and you don't get them caged, your number might be a little bit higher. But again, we were kind of out of energy, out of time last year when we had those leftovers. So it is what it is. We'll get it done. No big deal. But in terms of the number, the overall number, you know, my goal is to plant 1,000 trees by 2030. With the tree line that we did a few weeks ago, we put in 70. So that brought us to 520 over the last 5 years. So we put in 520. Maybe we'll get 5 or 6 more in today. We can get up to 525. That's a nice number. And that'll be it for this year. A lot of work, and very gratifying, but it's a lot of work. Maybe we'll put in a few in the fall. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, stay tuned, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, so we're a little over halfway through the day. It's just after lunchtime. We are getting ready to put together some of the chicken wire cages for our Norway spruce trees. And so I want to give you a quick update on what we got accomplished this morning, which was to replace 4 Norway spruces in the first section that I discussed. And then we actually replaced only 5 in this section. I had sort of anticipated that we were going to replace all 11 in this section, but my wife talked me off the ledge there. Women are usually smarter than men in most situations, and this is no exception. And so we ended up only replacing 5 of them, and that's okay. That actually worked out better, because then between yesterday's project and today's project, we were able to come out almost perfectly for the Norway spruces, and so we didn't have to intermingle or mix and match any of the white pines that we have. So we'll be able to use those in another area. But this is kind of what we're looking at, the finished product, much like yesterday. And so we're just taking time right now to put together these cages, and that's actually pretty time consuming. We roll these out in 10-foot lengths, and you kind of put the edges together and overlap here. I'll kind of show you. I don't know how well it'll show up, but overlap the edges 3 or 4 inches. Gives you a nice connection there, sturdy connection. Again, this is 1-inch chicken wire, and this is 48 inches tall. I believe they come in rolls of 50 feet long. And so it takes quite a few rolls when you're doing a larger project, but we're essentially just getting these in place right now to come back and stake them in with our 6-inch stakes that we use for the base. And so that's really what's going on right now. So we need 11 for this section, 5 for the other section, and we're going to do a few more trees over in that area. So we'll probably end up with about 17 of these cages for now, and then if we end up planting a bunch more of the white pines, we will need a couple more or a few more. So getting going on that right now. Score another win for the flatbed here as we transport them. I can fit 6 of them in the back here, so that helps definitely, having a 9-foot long flatbed. Otherwise we'd be doing lots of trips back and forth trying to get those in and get those situated. So we're going to finish that side of the project up, and then we will come back. I'll get the time lapse set up, and we will start putting the cages down, and also then decide where we want to put some of the white pines and some of the other. I think we still have 2 or 3 red oaks that we're going to left over that we'll stick in somewhere. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so just finishing up our project for the weekend. I want to give you the recap of what we accomplished on day 2 for our tree maintenance and Norway spruce and white pine replacement operation, you might say. So ended up replacing 4 of the Norway spruces on the other side, kind of that first segment I showed earlier. And then we replaced, I'm going to flip this around, we replaced 5 Norway spruce on this side. And so I'm just going to kind of back out here, give you an idea. Got the cages up. So anyone that you see that has sort of this orange or pink flag is one that we replaced today. And so that just gives us an idea. So if we're out and about and we have questions later as we're mowing or watering or doing whatnot, we kind of know which ones we replaced, which ones we didn't. Sometimes you can tell easily by the size and the makeup of the trees, from year to year, but never a bad idea to mark the new ones so they have a little bit extra care that might be needed. And so yeah, so we had a pretty good day today. So got all of those Norway spruces replaced, and then we kind of came over to this other part of the hill here, and essentially this tree line stopped originally about right here, and then we went ahead and did the white pines on this lower slope here. So that was a good kind of break point there for us, because we thought we were going to have to maybe mix and match a few of the white pines with the Norway spruces, but the numbers actually worked out perfectly. We had just an exact number of Norway spruce to replace the ones that we needed to, and then we were able to kind of start a new line of white pine. And so we did 9 white pine, so it kind of stretches all the way back there down into that little dip. And so yeah, we got some extra cages made. Took a little bit extra time to do that, but you know what, we were out here. That's the other thing, when you're doing a project like this, if there's a question like, well, I have an extra tree or two, it's always easier to take the time and just knock it out, because you're out here, you got all your equipment that you've got for the project. A lot of times you have people helping you, which again we did today, and so it's always better to just, you know, err on the side of caution and just do it while you're out here. So yeah, it was a great day, long day, a lot of work obviously, but I did want to mention also, you'll see a couple of these tree tubes back here, just like on the other side in the first segment. I mentioned whenever we have an extra tree, a hardwood, we stick it in somewhere and just try to get some new growth going, some native growth. And here's another great case study of damage from the storm in 2020, the derecho, and just took out a lot of trees in this area. You see the big gap there. So we had a couple of red oaks left over from the recent project, and so we stuck one in the ground here. And so we did that here, and then I'm going to walk back up the hill here and show you. We did it on the other side, and there's a pretty prolific tree down over here, and it's kind of good to get some new trees in its place. So again, we're on sort of the south side of our creek area here, and so now we're heading off to the east. We're gonna wrap around a little bit here. I didn't get this section mowed down yet, so I need to come back and do that, but kind of start to see a tree tube off in the distance. So again, lots of damage. That was a full canopy at one point up there, so we put another red oak right there to get going, sort of fill that void, you might say. So hopefully that'll take and start to fill in a little bit. So that's a red oak from last year. This is a red oak from this year, and then this is one of the spruces that we had. Here's some of the tree damage. Yep. Lots of damage. That's okay. That's why we're here. We're here to fix that. So anyway, lots of great progress today. Good feeling to kind of get behind that part of the heavy lifting for the year. And so now, getting back to numbers, I was wanting to get to 520, 525. I was hoping to do, we were at 520 from 2 weeks ago with our windbreak project that we did over there at the existing tree line that we connected and wrapped around the fence. So that put us at 520. I was hoping to do 5 extra today, get a nice round number at 525. Ended up doing 8 extra, so we at 528. So that's kind of the number. We'll see what happens the rest of the summer. Don't typically like planting over the summer for obvious reasons, but fall is also a good time to plant. So we'll see how we're feeling. We'll see how the tree maintenance and how the moisture transpires over the next few months, and really just see if we kind of have the energy to do any more trees this year, or if that's going to be it for this year, and then we'll start, you know, planning in the fall for the next spring. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Appreciate you taking the time to watch. As always, please like, please subscribe, please share this with your friends and family. The more people we get involved and excited about conservation is just a great thing. Get people out planting trees, getting maybe into a new hobby. I'll reiterate it again that never in a million years did I think I would be so into planting trees. It's just like, yeah, if you asked me that a long time ago, I'd be like, yeah, you're crazy. Not happening. It's kind of addictive. So you get a few trees in the ground, you see what happens, you know, they take off. It's really cool to see, and here we are now. And now you have someone like me who's a glutton for punishment. We're planting trees every year and having a good time doing it because we're committed to the process. We're committed to the conservation. We're committed to helping the land and making sure that we're doing our part. So get involved with conservation. It's a great thing. And I, again, appreciate you watching, and we'll talk to you soon.